It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Close to home in the great outdoors, a piece of history and touch of Mother Nature's brilliance. It's the Orchard Lake Nature Sanctuary, and we sent Kevin McIntosh out to learn more about how our community can explore this hidden gem all year long.
The Orchard Lake Nature Sanctuary is a community staple, giving local residents an opportunity to connect with the nature in their backyard. The Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society hosts a nature walk right in this sanctuary, and I had an opportunity to explore it myself and see what makes this sanctuary so special.
We are in the heart of West Bloomfield, and it's a place that could be driven by so easily on the way to the mall or a store. We are tucked in here. We're 35 beautiful acres that includes a prairie, hardwoods, evergreens, wetland, and other really beautiful stuff. So you can come here. There's so many different habitats, which gives you a great opportunity to see lots of different wildlife.
Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's naturalist, Carol Fink, showed me around the nature sanctuary and pointed out its unique features. She continued by sharing her routine before walking on the trail and her suggestions for enjoying the environment.
What I recommend is when you come here, leave your cell phones home if you can, leave your troubles in the parking lot and experience, be a part of nature, enjoy it, live every moment that you're here. And that includes looking at the bark of a tree. Use your hands, feel what the bark feels like, smell the wildflowers, see the wildlife, listen for the bird signs. It's a very unique, beautiful place. I kind of think of it as my corner gourmet store compared to several bigger sanctuaries. This place is home.
This public space is owned by West Bloomfield School District, and the Nature Walk is hosted by the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Outside of updating the trail with fresh gravel, planting trees, and picking up occasional trash, the Nature Sanctuary is left as is with little to no cleanup.
Sometimes I feel driven to bring out my vacuum cleaner and my dust cloth, but I don't, because what we want to do, this is nature's house. This is Mother Nature's house, and we like to leave as much of it natural as we can. You'll see some trees that are sawed and laid over to the side of the path, and that was so people could get by if there was a tree down or a limb that's loose that might fall and hurt someone. But it's our intention to keep our woods wild and natural, because that's a habitat for the animals. The animals have a safe place to nest, to feed, and to rest. So we do it for the critters.
Insects, animals, and wildlife plants, all available at the Orchard Lake Nature Sanctuary. If you're ever looking for a reason to get out of the house and explore our great outdoors right here in Greater West Bloomfield, the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's Nature Walk right here in the sanctuary should be a great option. From the Orchard Lake Nature Sanctuary, I'm Kevin McIntosh, Civic Center TV.
Appreciate Kevin going out and getting that story and for showcasing a part of nature right outside that some people might not be aware of. For more information on events exploring the orchard this spring and summer, visit the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society on gwbhs.org. As a reminder to everyone in the Greater West Bloomfield community, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and students from all across the West Bloomfield School District have been showing their appreciation and their gratitude for their teachers. You can take a look on our screen right now if you're watching on Civic Center TV. Some West Bloomfield Middle School students wrote heartfelt notes to their amazing teachers, serving as beautiful reminders of the impact teachers make in our schools and community. And we here at Civic Center TV want to also extend our own thanks to all of the teachers who make this community what it is and for fulfilling the lives of the students of West Bloomfield every single day. Be sure to share your appreciation on their Facebook page at West Bloomfield Schools. This Thursday, May 8th, is the West Bloomfield High School Spring Band Concert, featuring performances from the high school's symphony band, jazz band, adaptive music class, senior soloists, symphonic wind ensemble, and even the 2025 Band Award recipients, providing opportunities for all of these talented musicians to show off their hard work to their friends and families, and for everyone to enjoy a wonderful evening filled with music. Once again, this event is scheduled for Thursday, May 8th at 7 p.m., located in the West Bloomfield High School auditorium. Do you know a local legend who's making a lasting impact in our community? It's time to nominate them for the 15th annual Key to the Township Awards Breakfast, hosted by the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. This is your chance to recognize those who go above and beyond, from Business Person of the Year to Young Entrepreneur of the Year. Categories also include Health and Wellness Champion, Leadership Excellence, and Spirit of the Community. Nominate today. Just be sure to submit your entry by June 1st. The awards breakfast will take place July 30th at Wabeek Country Club. Don't miss the opportunity to give our change makers the recognition they deserve. Visit the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce Facebook page for more at West Bloomfield CC. Right in Sylvan Lake, a new fitness opportunity for some of the older residents of the community. Functional Fitness with Debbie, led by Debbie Booth, offers opportunities for seniors to move better, feel stronger, and live fully. I had the chance to attend their recent class to hear from some of the seniors themselves on what they've gained from this experience.
As you get older, you get more and more complacent, so I could feel things were starting to tighten, and I knew I needed to start stretching and just getting more mobility going. I like that what she taught us is something I can do at home. So we're only meeting one day a week, but I know I can practice these things at home. And it's nice to get out and meet our neighbors.
What have been some of the biggest things you've gained from being a part of this class?
Just getting started in the morning rather than being at home, and it's we all have the round to it. I'm going to get a round to it, and it gets me going in the morning to start the day.
And I mean, if there's any place to do a class like this, I mean, having an incredible view right here by Sylvan Lake, I mean, that's just got to add to the experience, wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah, I love being able to be down here at our community center and just take advantage of it. And it's a really reasonable price. You can't find an exercise class for this value.
Absolutely, to look out. I'd much rather be looking at the water and the ducks and the geese and not ice. Ready for the warm weather. Every spring is a rebirth, and I'm so glad to say, welcome spring.
And last question, what do you hope are some of the biggest things people take away from classes like these?
I've got to move. As we get older, we have to get up, we have to get moving. Walking through the community, I try to walk frequently, and just seeing people out walking around, it's good, but you need to get to these classes as well.
Well, I think it's a mindset. If someone said, I'm too old, for example. Oh, too old for what? You're never too old. Whatever you want to do in life, go for it.
So many valuable resources to gain from classes like this. And it's all made possible by the incredible work of their fitness instructor, Debbie Booth. I recently had the chance to speak with Debbie on the Splash Live to hear how these classes came to be and why they're so important to everyone. Fitness instructor Debbie Booth. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Jake. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely glad to have you with us. Really interested in getting into this conversation. What inspired you to create a functional fitness class specifically for seniors?
Basically, I saw a lack in the industry for safe and effective exercise for seniors that focuses on function, functional exercise, balance, strength, and stability. They all kind of go hand in hand. And as we get older, we lose those functions, and it actually starts a little bit earlier than you think. It starts really in your 40s for a lot of working men. And it tends to start a little bit later for women, more in their 50s. But many seniors begin being sidelined with injuries. So injuries pull them out of the gym, and then they're concerned about going back, jumping into something, re-injuring themselves. So they tend to sideline themselves. So that was a big part of it. The other part is to get our older residents out and in the community and social. So social isolation is really a big problem in the senior world.
You're absolutely right. It's always good and important to get the seniors out and communicating with the rest of the community and with like-minded individuals. Now, I was at your class yesterday and I saw everything firsthand. These are more basic exercises, but they have a lot of purpose. What are some of the common challenges seniors face that your class addresses?
One of the first things they face is balance and fall risks. So as we age, we stop doing things like pivoting when we turn. We tend to shuffle our turns. So that's something we address a lot, getting people to walk with a full walk, heel toe, walking forward. They start losing muscle strength. And with that, they lose stability. That's where the balance and fall risk begins. Arthritis sets in. So, and we have sedentary seniors, so we get locked up hips and backs. And we try to address all that with stretching, strengthening, and movement, and just reestablishing really good body mechanics.
Awesome. Very important purposes with these exercises. Now, can participants join at any fitness level, or should they at least have some prior experience?
No, they can join at any fitness level. Fitness really is pretty simple. Deconditioned individuals start with much lighter weight and bands. We usually use bands, weights, and balls, and body weight. If they're more fit, they just start with maybe heavier weights and bands. So I am known for my progression and regression of exercise to keep it safe across the board. So I really emphasize safety and knowing your limitations, and then building your confidence and your strength to challenge yourself.
For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we're talking with fitness instructor Debbie Booth about the Functional Fitness with Debbie classes that are taking place right now at the Sylvan Lake Community Center every Wednesday. Now, Debbie, how do you track or measure participants' progress over time as they keep coming back through your classes?
Well, I ask them to kind of note how they feel during exercise and after exercise. I'm not a huge fan of testing. Most people panic, don't like it. They tend to shy away as soon as the word test comes out. So we use more of a gauge of how they're feeling, how their joints are moving through range of motion, their pain levels, the ease of completing daily tasks in their life, their perceived endurance, their exhaustion levels, right? That's more of how we do it. I really keep an eye and I take some notes on people so I know and I can tell how they're moving. So it's a combination.
Of course, lots of important things to track. Now, Debbie, you've been doing this for a few weeks now. What have some of the participants who've been a part of your class told you firsthand about their experience?
One, they're really glad that we're offering this class. Two, they're not really comfortable in a big gym facility in big group classes. They like a more intimate setting, which this is. They want my assistance in keeping them on track, encouraging them to come We have a no judgment zone. So there is no judgment, period. People start where they start and they progress how they progress. It is a very encouraging and inclusive environment. And that is very, very important to me. So I think our own worst critics are ourselves. So my role, I feel, is to lift them up and help them move forward at their pace and their comfort level.
I like that. And you brought up a good point, because gyms can be very intimidating, especially if you're not somebody who works out an absolute ton. But you walk through, you see everybody just go into town with these machines. You don't really know where to start. So you're right. Being in that environment with people who are in the same boat as you, just looking to get a little more active, that helps lift everyone's spirits, wouldn't you say?
Right, exactly. And it really is about building a base for fitness. So what I see in the gyms is people go in and they have great intentions, and they tend to go in and overdo it, and they get extremely sore, and they leave the gym and they don't come back because they don't really know where to start, or they're on social media following fitness people that that mode of exercise really doesn't serve them well. So I feel my role, especially with this population, is to build a solid base of which we can branch off of. So you're never always a beginner. That's not how it goes. I call it kindergarten. You need to go to kindergarten, but then you want to progress into the next levels, and eventually you want to graduate and move on to the next levels. So that's really how I approach it.
I love that. Really helping to make that positive environment for everyone at your class. Debbie, one last quick question before we let you go. Beyond physical benefits, what other positive changes have you seen in your students' lives?
I see a renewed zest for life, a renewed spirit. The light comes back in their eyes. They find that they're able to do things that they couldn't do before. And that's usually what I hear first, or I hear from their family members. So some of my clients and other classes, their family members reach out to me, and they're grateful that now their parent, aunt, sibling, older sibling can now get in and out of cars, come to family events, go up and down stairs. I mean, it's simple things that sideline us. I just love being a positive influence, keeping them moving and getting them moving.
Well, that is amazing. Actually, I do have one more quick thing. Just tell us a little more information about the schedule for your classes, how long they're going to be going, and how people can join.
Okay, so Wednesday Live is part of a whole 12-week program I have on my website, which is in the flyer that you see in front of you. So we need to exercise 120 minutes a week. That's 30 minutes a day. So the Wednesdays will start being recorded live. You'll be able to come in live or watch them pre-recorded and join in. So our classes were on Wednesdays in Sylvan Lake. If you'd like to join, you can join through my website. There's a Eventbrite that you see that allows you to sign up for class, or you can contact me directly. My contact information is on the flyer.
Awesome.
So, and on Sylvan Facebook. So.
Awesome. You know where to look, and you know how to join in on this great opportunity. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
Thank you. You have a great day.
It's great to hear about all of these seniors getting up and getting moving, and even better, enjoying that wonderful Sylvan Lake view. So really appreciate Debbie Booth for taking the time to speak with us here on The Splash Live. A local dog group walk is returning to West Bloomfield. Good Choices Dog Training and Services is running an adventure group program throughout May and June of 2025. Sessions are held at various parks and locations within Greater West Bloomfield, including Bloomer Park, West Bloomfield Woods Nature Preserve, and the West Bloomfield Recreation Activity Center, as well as nearby areas like Novi and Farmington Hills. Here to tell us more about the program is the owner of Good Choices Dog Training, Elaine Chan Whitlow. Elaine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi. Yeah.
Really happy to have you with us and really excited to be talking about this because I know everybody's looking to get outside again, looking to hit the dog parks with their best friends. How does utilizing these local environments enhance the training experience for dogs and their owners?
I think a lot of times people train their dog in a facility or in a controlled environment. And what happens is that sometimes the dogs are able to excel doing behaviors or command in a controlled environment. But when they go to a real life scenario, for example, outside in a nature trail in a park, the dog begin to struggle because dogs do not generalize behavior the same way as people do. So because of those struggles, I came up with the idea that, hey, why not actually train and also have some session to help dog owner practice what they learn in the classes in an environment that is actually real life, whereas places that the dog might actually struggle a little bit more. But the idea is that we're going to have people, myself, trainer, and other assistants there to help these dogs to become more successful, adapting to the environment and also learning the command and helping them practice the command so that they can strengthen the skill that they learn.
That's fantastic, and that's such a great thing that you're doing, and I'm really happy that you just touched on something like that, because over the years of serving the Greater West Bloomfield community, what are some of the most common training challenges you've observed among local dog owners, and how has your adventure group adapted to address these evolving needs?
Sometimes I think one of the things that I notice is that the dog, people might think they've been socialized well, but then the dog actually are not. So number one thing, I feel that sometimes the dog might be reacting to just normal random things like other dogs being around or having bicycle or people just walking by in the park. So that's one of the main things that the adventure group focus on, is that we also help the dog socialize around other dogs and people, number one. The other skill that I do see that they're struggling the most is usually leash walking, walking, just having the leash manner in general when, dog and owner walking in public situation. Because like I said, in a controlled environment, the dogs are fine. But when there's also like squirrels and birds and other kids and other people walking in strollers and stuff, the dog is pulling or not listening or having a hard time just focusing in general, which is a big deal, because if the dog is not focusing on the handler, that can become a big issue as far as listening. And I think the other thing is that the owners are also learning etiquette, owner etiquette, like when they're in public, if people wanted to come and pet their dog or kids want to come and say hi to the dog, how should we address something like that while they're training and helping their dog become more successful?
Absolutely. Lots of great things to gain from being a part of something like this. And you just said that the dog owners can learn this sense of etiquette when it comes to managing their pets. How do you see the adventure group fostering a sense of community among dog owners in West Bloomfield? And what benefits do participants gain from connecting with other local dog lovers?
One of the things that I noticed that sometimes people that come to my group, some of them already know each other, which is kind of interesting because I think it's a small community. And I like to do it because sometimes I get to connect with students or dogs that I've trained in the past. And when I have these like drop-in group, it's one of the opportunity for me to see them again. But sometimes I also like promoting other local businesses. For example, I partner with the Premier Pet Supply store. Sometimes they give me like, some samples or coupons to pass out in my group, which are also helping other local businesses. And I also like when we come together, sometimes I can refer the people that are looking for like pet sitter or maybe like dog walker among our group, which is also really nice too. So I can pass on some of the names and people that are in the community to kind of like keep everything local, like if somebody asking for a dog walker, we have somebody in our group that actually does that. And a bunch of the people that do come, they're also members of the West Bloomfield Dog Park. So they are already kind of friends. So it's kind of nice to see that they can all come together and enjoy the adventure group together.
Oh, that is amazing. I love hearing that. Everybody helping each other out with their pet needs and making sure that all of the dogs are happy and healthy. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we're talking with Elaine Chan Whitlow, the owner of Good Choices Dog Training, talking about the Adventure Group program that's going to be taking place throughout May and June of 2025 at various parks located in Greater West Bloomfield. And Elaine, what is the philosophy behind offering free sessions like the one that's going to be taking place at the West Bloomfield Woods Nature Preserve? How do you hope these introductory sessions benefit the local dog owning community?
I just want to increase more people being aware of what I'm offering and just kind of coming out to check it out, because sometimes they don't really know how I do things or how I train and how the group is run. Once they get to like kind of like sample it a little bit, like though that was almost like a free sample session, then they will be more willing to commit or join. But the good thing is that with the adventure group, it is quite flexible, so people can kind of just come to one session and then just drop in as they need it. They need to reserve, ahead of time. Let me know they're coming. And if there's also, weather happening, we do postpone it or reschedule it. So we're not gonna, host it on a rainy day. But the good thing is that they can sample it. They can kind of see how I train, how I, handle the dogs, and then really making sure that everybody having a good experience and a fun experience. I think the fun is really where I would want to highlight.
Absolutely. Plenty of fun to be had with this adventure group series. Now, Elaine, you touched on this just a little bit ago, but I'd imagine putting something together like this, I mean, you can absolutely do it alone, but you've gotten a lot of help from local businesses and local organizations throughout Greater West Bloomfield. Are there any collaborations within Greater West Bloomfield to promote responsible dog ownership and your training services that you've established?
At this point, it's just mostly myself. I do think about returning back to maybe working with the recreation center a little bit more. But I said, having the local pet store and some of the local pet training businesses, or even like dog walk or pet sitting businesses helping would be nice. I think it's just, more people out there promoting the, safe ownership, safe, owner handling the dog would be actually a good idea.
Absolutely right. Elaine, just a couple more quick questions before we let you go. Looking ahead to the summer months in Greater West Bloomfield, what are some crucial safety and well-being tips you'd like to share with local pet owners to ensure their dogs stay happy and healthy during this warmer weather?
One thing that's most important is making sure that they stay hydrated. So it's always really important to pack water. Sometimes I even tell people to put water in like a thermos container water bottle so that it's colder for them to be able to drink. Really watch out to learn about how the dog may be suffering or experiencing heat stroke, learning the signs. And usually if weather is over 75 or even 80, depending on your dog's breed and their age and size and physical physique, you may not want to walk them, or choose a time that is cooler if you really have to exercise them, maybe like at evening time or early morning, and avoiding the time that are direct sunlight. Check the pavement, making sure the pavement is not too hot. Sometimes I also recommend putting paw balms on their paw if they're walking on, more warmer pavement. Those are really important. Sometimes, also take a break. If you see the dog is panting a lot, take a break, rest, pull them aside, shade, give them water, making sure. Sometimes I even give my adventure group, I even brought cooling towel for everybody if it was a little bit warmer. And if you go into places that are more wooded or, had like trees and things, or not like just regular walking trail, make sure they have bug repellents, the dog is on flea and tick preventative, because ticks are one of the issues that we are still dealing with. So be aware of that. You want to get the dog, have bug spray ahead of time, or wear a t-shirt, and then making sure that when you go home, take the shirts off, the owner immediately change in their clothes, throw the clothes in the washer, things like that. Check their feet, run your hand around their whole body, making sure there's no little tags or little buggy, jumping onto them. Because as long as you can check the body before the ticks latch onto the dog, the chances of the tick feeding on the pet are less. So the tick may get on the body, but it doesn't start feeding onto the dog, which is where you kind of worry, because that's how the disease, can be transmitted. So just make sure that you run your hands through all their, skin and coat between their toe, the paw pad, under the paw, ears, the groin area, things like that. And just make sure that we take prevention to make sure they don't get overheated, they don't get heat stroke, and they don't get parasites and bugs.
Wow, you have thought of everything. Lots of very important details for everyone to keep in mind in keeping their dogs safe for this summer season. Elaine, real quickly, last question. Are there any new programs or initiatives you envision offering to local dog owners in the future?
Right now, one of the other really popular service that I offer is also day camp training, which is me taking the dog for the day and having them, socialize, exercise them for the day, and train them for obedience. So I have, several, many clients in the West Bloomfield area are enjoying that. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing in the summer as well, being able to provide that. And some of the adventure group, we also travel to like other places, like, such as like eating at a restaurant and things like that. So that would also be good to, to like also almost like you're saying, like helping other local businesses enjoying the time. So those are, but the adventure group is one of my most exciting program that I brought back. I think this is my 7th year doing it, so that's kind of fun. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see what's to come throughout the rest of the summer months as everybody gets outside and enjoys the weather with their pets. Elaine, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Once again, the Adventure Group is going to be taking place all throughout May and June at local West Bloomfield Park. So if you've got a dog and you'd like to participate, just look for the future dates and head on out there. I'm sure Elaine and everybody else would love to see you. We're just getting started here on the Splash Live. Plenty of other great stories and important topics to get into right after this. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
It's that time of year again. Gather around to honor our community's volunteers at the 53rd Annual Michigan Week Awards. Watch as these local stars are honored for their leadership, dedication, and passion in their community. For more information or to register, go to michiganweek.org. Catch the live broadcast May 9th
on civiccentertv.com or on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
So much is happening in your community. Join Jake, Tyler, and Kevin for local events and developments on the Splash Live, weekdays at 10 a.m. on CivicCenterTV.com, YouTube, and Facebook.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. As we move along throughout the springtime months, allergies and illnesses will continue to play a major factor all throughout the next few months. Spring allergies are increasing and triggering asthma and COPD flare-ups, particularly as the weather fluctuates in southeast Michigan. And not only that, but stomach viruses are on the rise across all countries, including norovirus and rotavirus cases in children and unvaccinated infants. I recently spoke with emergency medicine specialist at Henry Ford Hospital, Dr. Jason Veeder, to hear about what we can do to combat these pesky allergies. Emergency medicine specialist with Henry Ford Hospital, Dr. Jason Veeder. Jason, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Really, really good. Really important conversation to get into. Glad you're joining us here on The Splash. What seasonal health concerns should West Bloomfield families be especially mindful of as we move into late spring?
Yeah, as you mentioned, obviously asthma and COPD are certainly at the top of the list. This winter, we had a very robust flu season. So a lot of folks had flu. We saw a lot of that in the emergency department. We did not see as much COVID. The flu is starting to abate somewhat. And now, as you noted, the weather has been kind of crazy. We'll get fluctuations of 40 degrees, and then we start to get pollen. So we really start to get concerned about people that have asthma and COPD. Certainly, we're on the lookout for that. Allergy season is right upon us, so we'll definitely see lots of people with allergies, and there still will be your run-of-the-mill colds and upper respiratory infections.
That's right. Lots of things to be on the lookout for a lot of people. I've had asthma issues when I was younger. It's not as bad now that I've gotten older, but I certainly know what a lot of people are dealing with right now. What would you say are some of the top safety recommendations for parents as children become more active outdoors and might have a higher risk of getting some of these illnesses?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I know we're going to talk about, especially when kids start going outdoors, some of the things I think about in addition to allergies are we want to start making sure that when kids are riding their bikes, they're wearing a helmet. A lot of times parents will put their kids in elbow pads and knee pads, things like that to avoid traumatic injuries. That's really important. For those parents that have children with allergies, if they're going to go outside, sometimes it's about pre-medicating with an antihistamine so that it just will mitigate some of the severity of any sort of allergy or illness. Certainly be aware if you're in an area where there's lots of pollen or there's lots of trees and flowers. Those are areas to avoid as well. And it's crazy to think about because, when I woke up yesterday, it was 39 degrees outside, but it is sunny and it's time to start thinking about putting on suntan lotion to just protect kids against getting a sunburn or any sort of heat-related illness.
Michigan weather at its finest. It can go from 30 degrees to 70 degrees just with the snap of a finger. And
Absolutely.
With a lot of these spring allergies coming forward, a lot of lingering respiratory infections can have like very similar symptoms to just basic spring allergies. So how can West Bloomfield residents distinguish between the symptoms of spring allergies and a lingering infection?
That's a great question. So generally speaking, when you have an upper respiratory infection, it's going to last about 7 to 10 days. Sometimes a cough will linger, but then it'll go away. Allergies will frequently last much longer. Allergies, as people know, you'll get watery eyes or a runny nose. You might feel kind of itchy. When you have an infection, you can frequently get a fever. You might get body aches. You might notice a discoloration to any sort of, if your nose is running or any mucus. So those are good ways to differentiate an allergy versus an infection. If you have something that's just not going away, it's more likely an allergy. You can always trial an antihistamine like Zyrtec or Allegra or Benadryl and see if that makes you feel better. If that kind of medication makes you feel better, then you're more likely looking at an allergic reaction versus an infection.
All very important things to keep in mind. Now, has the Henry Ford Hospital, even the one in West Bloomfield, have they seen an increase in ER visits due to dehydration or outdoor-related injuries as of late?
So we're a little early in the season for that. Definitely as school gets out, which isn't too far away. I know my children can give me a daily count of how many days are left. As kids are getting more active outside, then we start to worry about more traumatic injuries, kids falling, bike injuries, things like that. We worry about, like you said, dehydration or heat-related illness. When it gets really hot, it'll be important to make sure that your kids or people that work outside, people that are exposed for long periods of time in the sun, are making sure that they're staying cool, drinking water, wearing loose-fitting clothing, and taking time to get inside or to an area that will allow you to cool down so you don't get sick from being exposed to heat for too long.
That's right. Heat stroke can be a very, very dangerous thing to deal with, especially around this time of year. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we have emergency medicine specialist with Henry Ford Hospital, Dr. Jason Veeder, joining us right now on the Splash Live to tell us how to combat spring illnesses and sicknesses that are arising this time of year. Now, Jason, what preventative steps can residents take at home or in schools to curb the spread of things like stomach bugs and viral infections to make sure those aren't an issue for anybody?
Yeah, the most important thing we can all do is to be really careful about hand washing. And I know sometimes it can be annoying or you don't want to spend the time doing it, but it's really, really important after you eat, should you sneeze or cough, certainly after you use the bathroom. It's really important to make sure you're washing your hands with soap and water. It sounds simple and easy, but unfortunately, not everyone's doing that. If you're not feeling well, I think we've all learned this lesson when we went through all of the COVID stuff. If you're not feeling well, that is not the time to try and push through and go to work or school.
That's right.
It's important to take that extra day maybe and just stay at home. You don't have to isolate in your bedroom and, not talk to anybody. But if you're certainly not feeling well, it's a good reason to just kind of stay home, make sure you're feeling better. If you have to go out, that's a reason to wear a mask. Obviously, folks are not wearing masks as much anymore, and that's totally appropriate. But if you are not feeling well and you have concerns that you might have an infection, it'd be a good idea to wear a mask in a public space.
That's right. I definitely think that since the days of COVID, everybody is a lot more wary when it comes to any type of illness. Even if it's like just a simple cold that passes through that anybody gets, you got to be very, very careful and make sure that nobody gets this and it doesn't spread any further. Jason, how does the community's access to care at Henry Ford support faster recovery and reduce ER congestion during illness surges?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. First of all, once again, just as we all still do, I shouldn't say we all, but I certainly still have a little bit of post-traumatic stress from COVID. Once again, it's just trying to be judicious about the times when you're not feeling well and going out. If you're not feeling well, there are plenty of urgent cares. Henry Ford has a series of urgent cares called Go Health, which you've probably seen around your neighborhood. There are quite a few of them. Those are great resources if you're not feeling well, but you feel like you might not need an emergency department visit. Those are a good place to go to get some care. Should you go to the emergency department, especially at West Bloomfield Hospital, we've done some things to try and decrease congestion. We've put a physician in the triage area to try and differentiate those who are really sick and might need a hospitalization and those who maybe just need to be evaluated and treated. Should you need to actually come back to the emergency department proper, there are also programs that we have to try to keep people out of the hospital. We have something called Mobile Integrated Health, which is a program if you're not feeling well, but we feel like maybe you could still go home, there are people then can come out the next day and check on you, make sure you're doing okay, you're taking your medications as prescribed. There's a lot of literature that shows that people heal the best at home. So while certainly there are times when a hospitalization is needed, if we can get someone back home with their family in a familiar environment, that will really promote healing much quicker if possible.
Absolutely. Sounds like that could have so many benefits for people staying at home, recovering from illnesses. Jason, I got one more quick question for you before we let you go. Are there any specific public health advisories or upcoming vaccination clinics in West Bloomfield you recommend residents be aware of this spring?
So, I'm not aware of any vaccination clinics right now, but I'm sure many people have seen that we have had an uptick in measles. It's the greatest amount of measles we've seen in decades. So I can't stress enough the importance of getting vaccinated. Certainly your primary care physician can help with that, or our Department of Public Health, because it's critically important that we make sure that we're vaccinated so that we really decrease these preventable illnesses that we're now seeing an uptick.
That's right. Important things to be aware of all throughout this illness season. Dr. Veter, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
It's my pleasure.
Allergies can certainly be a nuisance, especially around a time like the spring season. So we really appreciate Dr. Jason for stopping by and for explaining all this information right here on The Splash Live. Oakland County is partnering with the Michigan College Access Network for Ticket to Tuition. MCAN and MyLeap have launched a sweepstakes offering $10,000, $50,000 and $10,000 prizes to Michigan students who complete the FAFSA for the first time for the 2025-26 academic year. The initiative aims to boost FAFSA completion rates, which are essential for accessing federal, state, and institutional financial aid. Ryan Fewens-Bliss, the executive director of the Michigan College Access Network, recently joined me for an interview to discuss the mission's impact. Executive Director of the Michigan College Access Network, Ryan Fewens-Bliss. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Talk about this.
Absolutely glad to be getting into this conversation. Even though this year's school year is starting to come to an end, people are always looking ahead to the next year. How is MCAN collaborating with local organizations in West Bloomfield to promote FAFSA completion and awareness of the Ticket to Tuition sweepstakes?
That's a great question. We're working with local community-based organizations, local K-12 schools, local intermediate school districts, and local community colleges to get the message to people in your community that you can access college. You can still access college in the fall if you fill out the FAFSA, and you will see how much money you're able to access to get to college. In Michigan, we have the new community college guarantee. So if you live within a community college district, which folks in Oakland County certainly do, you can access a free associate's degree or certificate from your local community college. The FAFSA is the ticket into that program.
That's absolutely right. It's the ticket to the next phase of your education. Ryan, what specific challenges do students in communities like West Bloomfield face regarding college access, and how does MCAN aim to address them?
Well, number one is always the cost. It is expensive to go to college. We have started to address this with new financial aid. In the last 5 years, the state has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in new financial aid that didn't exist when I went to college here in Michigan. And so we've been attacking that piece of it. The FAFSA, again, is the ticket to access those funds. But we also hear from students and families that housing is expensive, transportation is expensive, childcare is expensive for students who may be parents. So we try to help students figure out how to wrap around those other services so that they can access education. And then their family and themselves can be more successful and can grow in their income and their stability.
That's right. And people like you, Ryan, are doing so much work to help make sure that everybody has those funds and the money to afford college. And you're trying to achieve the 60 by 30 goal. Could you elaborate on what that initiative is and how it impacts communities in Oakland County?
Yes, so back in 2019, in Governor Whitmer's first address to the state, really, she set a goal of 60 by 30. It's the first time the state has set a college attainment goal. 60 by 30 means 60% of Michigan residents will have a degree or post-secondary certificate by the year 2030. And that's because of economic data that says the state will need that many people with certificates and degrees for our economy to continue growing, or we import the talent from other communities, other states, and other countries. We want to make sure Michigan folks have an economic opportunity here. So the governor set that, the legislature then codified that in the state budget every year since. And so we're working toward that. What's interesting is it's a statewide goal. So local communities, local areas like Oakland County certainly needs more than 60% for your economy. You probably are more like an 80% need. So your 80% will cover for some of the more rural communities who need a smaller percent than 60%. That's how we get the 60% statewide goal.
I like that. Everybody chipping in to help make sure that everybody else is doing just as well. And Ryan, what metrics does MCAN use to assess the effectiveness of programs like Ticket to Tuition in increasing college enrollment and completion rates?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be a surprise. We measure college enrollment and completion rates. We measure FAFSA completion, certainly as a leading indicator to that. We measure the number of students in Michigan going to college. We measure the number of students who are persisting in college, which means they are staying and getting credits toward graduation. And then we measure the number of people graduating. And then as a larger community-based number, we measure the people in Michigan who have a certificate or a degree. That's where that 60 by 30% comes from. That's anybody who lives in a Michigan community having a certificate or a degree. So we measure the entire community, and then we also measure the high schoolers who have come from that community.
Leaving no stone unturned. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we're talking with the executive director of the Michigan College Access Network, Ryan Fewens-Bliss, about the Ticket to Tuition program that's going to be going into effect for the 2025-26 academic school year. Now, Ryan, something like this, I would imagine you would need some help from a lot of people and a lot of organizations throughout Greater West Bloomfield. How can local schools and community organizations in Greater West Bloomfield partner with MCAN to support students' post-secondary aspirations?
Well, we know that the best way for schools to get involved in this is to have a trained and licensed school counselor with a caseload that they can manage. We know that across the state, there is a dearth of school counselors when we need them most. And so school counselors are where we invest a ton of time and energy because we know they are the best route to getting students where they want to go in their post-secondary plans. But it's not just about the K-12 schools, community-based organizations, after-school programs, the colleges themselves. We're all working together to try to get students to where they want to get to in life. We use the term right match, right fit, that there's a college for every student. You just have to find the right match and fit college. And that's what we're all working toward. How do we get everyone to where they need to go? And that might be a local community college, and that might be Harvard.
That's right. Everyone's doing the work. And I love that shout out for the school counselors. They do so much, and they really help to put a lot of these students on the path to success. And that's kind of what I want to get into right now. And that's that long-term impact. Beyond financial incentives, what long-term strategies is MCAN implementing to sustain increased college access and success in Michigan?
We use systems change as our framework for what we do here at MCAN. We're trying to make the K-12 system more student and post-secondary friendly, and we're partnering with them to do that. We're partnering with colleges to make sure they are focused on retention of students, persistence toward completion, and then completion. It's not enough just to send folks to college. They've got to be able to complete and get that certificate or degree. So we're working with those systems to make sure they are more student friendly and that they are aiming toward post-secondary education and completion.
That's amazing. And Ryan, something like this, I'm curious to know what this means for someone like you. What inspired your commitment to college access, and how does your personal journey influence your leadership at MCAN?
Listen, I waltzed into college with very few barriers. My mom filled out the FAFSA for me. I got into the college that I wanted, and when I looked around looking for my classmates from high school, they weren't there. I didn't realize there were so many barriers to college for a lot of people, for most people in this country and in our state. And so that privilege that I had really hit me hard. And I learned that I needed to make sure that there was a pathway for other people, because college changed my life. It made me the man who I am. It made me the professional who I am. Everybody deserves that opportunity to have their life changed for the better and designed by them. College lets you do that. And so that's what I've committed my professional life to, is making it so other people have just as much access and just ease of access as I had when I went to college.
I love that answer, making college accessibility easy for everyone. Ryan, I got one more quick question before we let you go, because I'm sure a lot of people watching are going to want to learn more about the Ticket to Tuition Sweepstakes. Where can people go to learn a little more information about this program?
The website, tickettotuition.org, and you are able to see all the information about how to register. And I want to be clear, this is open to every new applicant to FAFSA, whether you're an adult, whether you're a K-12 student, if you filled out the FAFSA for the first time this academic year, you are eligible to register for the big prizes. You got to register by May 16th, but all of those folks are eligible, and we'd encourage you to text that number today.
That's absolutely right. Some big prizes for people to fill out the FAFSA and to get them a big head start on the next phase of their college education. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Anytime. Thanks.
Big thank you to Ryan for taking the time to speak with us about Ticket to Tuition. Plenty of great things for everybody to achieve when taking a part with this program. As a lot of people know, the Real ID deadline is quickly approaching. In fact, it's tomorrow, May 7th. After this date, travelers must present a Real ID compliant form of identification to board domestic flights in the United States. I recently spoke with Kim Odekirk, who talked with me about how people can still get their IDs updated before the deadline takes place. Travel agent Kim Odekirk with Association Services, Stellar Events, and Travel. Kim, good morning.
Good morning, Jake. How are you?
Really, really good. Happy to have you with us for this very important topic. How are you helping Greater West Bloomfield travelers prepare for the Real ID deadline in May of 2025?
Well, I tell them that they need to get it. Most people think it's only for travel, but also federal buildings will not allow you to enter unless you have that Real ID, which is the star at the upper right corner. And it's all states require it. It's not just a Michigan thing. It's not just West Bloomfield. All states will require it. The District of Columbia and all 5 territories. So make sure you have that Real ID. Also, to go to the Secretary of State, you need to take your passport. If you don't have your passport, you need to get a passport, or you need to go on the site for Secretary of State and see what documents you can use to get that Real ID.
All right, great tidbits to keep in mind. And I'm curious, what kind of questions do you tend to get from local clients who are concerned about ID requirements for summer travel?
Well, some of them are like, well, I don't have it. But if you have a passport, you can always use your passport to board any flight to get into federal buildings. So most of them are asking me, why do I need it? What's the deadline? Again, it's May 7th, so it's coming up pretty quick. So those are kinds of the main questions, why do I need it and when do I have to have it by?
All right, yes, of course, keep big questions to keep in mind. Now, of course, a lot of families are going to be traveling possibly with young kids who might not be aware of what any of this is, and possibly seniors who might have forgotten to refill out these forms a while back. How do you work with families, especially those traveling with kids or seniors, to ensure that everyone is travel ready?
Right. So if you're under 18, you don't need a Real ID. You just need the parent to have one. For seniors, you need to, go to Secretary of State, or you can call them. You can renew passports online now, which is new. So especially if you have one already and you just need to renew it, do it online. It'll be a lot faster and you'll get it quicker. Passports can take anywhere from 4 to 10 weeks, depending on the government. And you want to, the biggest tick I tell my people is make sure your passport is good 6 months after you want to get back into the United States. I've seen people stopped at the airport because their passport doesn't go out far enough for them to get back into the United States.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, these are very important things to keep in mind. That's something I didn't even think about. And for residents who haven't updated to Real ID yet, what's your advice on making the process smooth and stress-free?
Find out where your local Secretary of State office is, make an appointment. I've had mine for a long time, so I haven't been to the Secretary of State lately, but they were taking appointments. And then read to see what documents you need. If you have a passport, I think you're good to go. If you don't, you have to have an original birth certificate. You have to have your Social Security card. You have to have 2 documents that prove you live in Michigan and your address. So a lot more hoops if you don't have that passport. But make sure you get it done.
Of course. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we have travel agent Kim Oderkirk talking to us about the importance of updating your Real ID, because the Real ID deadline is on May 7th of 2025. Now, are you seeing any changes in travel plans locally due to Real ID awareness or confusion?
I have not seen any. Most people, when they renewed their license, it automatically renewed to a Real ID. So most people have it. I've only talked to one person that didn't, and I said, well, you better make your appointment and go get it. Even if you don't travel, like I said, federal buildings are going to require you to show that. So if you're trying to get into a federal courthouse or, anything TSA, or, I don't know what other buildings, but, you're going to have to check that location and see if you are required to show a Real ID.
Of course. Now, it seems like we're coming up on a very, very big travel season. Maybe people might be taking a late spring break trip or possibly an early Memorial Day weekend. What travel tips do you have for West Bloomfield residents who may be booking trips around that time and who might be a little concerned about the deadline?
Well, again, passport works for everything. So, hopefully you have your passport. If you're going domestic, you don't need to worry about the 6 months, but you can still use your passport to get on any flight. And then, like I said, if you're going to travel, you make your appointment at Secretary of State, get your Real ID, and just make sure you're in compliance.
Of course. And then, Kim, in your role as a travel advisor, how can you help community members avoid some last-minute issues at big TSA checkpoints, especially those who might be unaware of some of the new rules?
Well, TSA, so if you want to get through, get past that long TSA line, make sure you have a known traveler's number. So it's an $85 fee. You go in, they do your fingerprints, and then you can go through the TSA line. I know in the next 5 years, I'm actually going to travel out of the country. I want to go to Australia. So my husband and I, we did global entry. That's $120 each, but that lets me go through a faster line. It lets me do faster customs to come back into the country. Most of it's all about getting back into the United States, not so much as leaving the country. So that's what you want to make sure. Anybody going on a cruise, some people are confused about cruises. Always take your passport on a cruise. I don't care if you're, U.S. city to U.S. city. Any of those ports that require a passport will require that cruise to have a passport.
Of course, always have your passport on you for any form of travel. That's what I think, at least. Kim, thank you so much.
And carry it on you, Jake, too. Don't leave it in your hotel room or anything. Make sure you have that passport on you. If you have a problem in another country, you want to be able to get home.
Of course, absolutely. Kim, thank you so much for joining us here on The Splash. One more question before we let you go. Where can people go to gain a little more information about the deadline and what to do?
Okay, so I looked that up. And it is travel.state.gov.
All right. Very important website to make sure that you are up to date on all of the information. Kim, thank you so much for joining us on The Splash.
Thanks, Jake.
With that wraps up our show today here on The Splash Live. Big thank you to all of our guests for stopping by and for everyone on the Splash team for making this show possible. I've been your host, Jake Schaff. Live, local, social. It's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.